Almighty God will link our lives together. Guide the important work, struggling because pray this in the name of earthly life shared in our labor. Lord's Prayer. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive.
This House is in session. Minutes of the meeting held on Monday, 13th October, 2025 to be deferred.
I beg that these minutes be deferred.
The question is that the aforementioned minutes be deferred. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it. The aforementioned minutes are hereby deferred. Before we commence government business, I wish to welcome the fifth form students of the St. Leonard's Boys School.
St. Leonard's?
St. Leonard's, along with their teacher. I hope you all find this debate and this parliamentary debate to your liking. I hope you gain tremendous from it and that it would give you an appetite for civic service. I wish you well as you watch this debate today.
Messages from Her Excellency the President, petitions, papers, government notices, private members' notices, notice of questions, reports from select committees, first reading of bills.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move the first read.
I remember St. James Central.
I beg your pardon, sir. Mr. Speaker, sir, I beg to move the first reading of the Barbados Energy Company Transfer and Vesting of Assets Bill 2025.
Beg a second. You all?
I also beg to move the first reading of the Copyright Bill 2025.
Beg to second that, sir.
The question is that the aforementioned bills be ready the first time. All those honourable members in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Those against, please say no. We think the ayes have it.
Statements by ministers, congratulatory and/or victory speeches, personal explanations, motion for leave of absence, or replies to questions, notice of motion for adjournment of the House on matters of urgent public importance, Orders of the day.
Honourable Member for Exeter East.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to move the suspension of standing orders 6, 16, 18, 20, 42, 5, 43, and 44 for the remainder of the day sitting.
The question is that the aforementioned standing orders be suspended for the remainder of the day sitting. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Me think the ayes have it. The aforementioned standing orders are hereby suspended for the remainder of the day's sitting. Government business is the order of the day.
Order number 9, sir.
Order number 9. Order number 9, in the name of the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, to move the second reading.
Copyright.
Oh, I'm sorry, sir. Is order number 10. In the name of the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade, to move the second reading of the Copyright Bill 2025.
Honourable Member James Central.
Piece of legislation through this House. It was led already and passed in the other place. And of course, because the minister substantively responsible for the matter of copyright resides in the other place, that is where the bill would have originated. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to begin by suggesting to you, Mr. Speaker, that the matter of copyright obviously is located, as you would be well aware, within the broader context of what we would call intellectual property law. And perhaps, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is one of the most relevant issues with respect to national development, certainly with respect to creativity, with respect, sir, to innovation, with respect to the empowerment of people who are utilizing their ideas, their skills, whether that person be a painter, sir, who has done a painting, whether that person be a musician, sir, who has written a musical piece, whether that person, sir, be doing dramatic artistic performances, so he does writes a dramatic play. Mr. Speaker, sir, what the copyright is intended to be able to give is that legal protection and the enforceable rights. Also very important, sir, is the fact that we are talking about ideas. If I write a book, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am putting my thoughts onto paper. And as I have written that book, I have shared my ideas with the world. But my ideas, Mr. Speaker, sir, are just intangible. You can't touch them until when I have put that into writing. And if I am, as you may have heard, the mighty Gabby, and I haven't asked for permission to call the names of some of our artists, sir, but to make this an enjoyable debate, especially as we have those in the public gallery who I think we should use the opportunity to educate, sir. I will make this as easy to understand and digest as possible. We may have, Mr. Speaker, well-noted Calypsonians in Barbados. When they sit down, or maybe in a quiet moment, start to do a composition in the head, that is the idea. And from the time the idea is formulated, sir, there is inherently the opportunity or the ability to say, this idea of mine is something that I want to protect. Now, that is where it is intangible. It cannot be touched, Mr. Speaker, sir. But it is nonetheless a property. And once you have reduced that idea into a script or into some other form, it might be the painter putting it on his canvas, then, Mr. Speaker, sir, that is the entitlement to have that property transferable on death. So that if I die, I can then, those who I leave behind me, for a period of what used to be 50 years, and then once this legislation is passed, it will be 70 years. from the start of the year after I died, I will be able then, sir, to go to my death in the certain knowledge that my idea continues to be protected, and that as a result of that protection, sir, my family can enforce rights and therefore, sir, earn money off of my idea long after I dead and gone long for a period of 50 years, and we are going to make it a little longer. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, again, so that we all understand it, we have had great road marches in Barbados, and you may get a repeat king like the mighty Grainer. Year after year after year, going a road march. And then, Mr. Speaker, sir, he may have songs that he has not yet published. And we not would, I hope they continue to live, but suppose he passed away. And Mr. Speaker, sir, those things that are not published are still part of his ideas, his creativity. And it is for his family then to decide if they want to publish it. And it is his family then to decide whether they want to what we would call monetize, transfer the idea into monetary returns, financial returns, so that that family then can continue to build wealth after he has passed and gone. And that is perhaps, sir, what we have seen a lot of global artists, international artists been able to do. And I say this, sir, very frankly, most of them would have come from North America and Europe. And as I go into this debate a little bit further, I will tell you why that happens to be the case as opposed to down here. But one of the valuable things about copyright, therefore, sir, is that the individual who has just had an idea can translate that idea into his own or her personal wealth, and then can translate that idea, sir, as part of the succession, what I pass to the people behind me, sir, that after I die, that idea continues, sir, to be able to be used exclusively by those people if they want to use it exclusively, or to be shared with others if they want to share it with others, sir, and to generate more wealth. So that, realistically speaking, copyright is a vehicle for the creation of intergenerational wealth. Now, Mr. Speaker, in the last few minutes that I've been speaking to you, I have touched on a few fundamentals about national development. We have talked, Mr. Speaker, sir, about innovation and the need to have innovation in our economy. We have talked, sir, about empowerment, which is the economic empowerment of the ordinary person who, independent of any company, independent of any large foreign investor coming to our shores, sits down and says, this piece of music is what I want to write, and this piece of music is what I want to sell. And how that economic empowerment, sir, can then be passed on to successive generations behind him for a period of 70 years, once this legislation is passed. It's now 50 years, sir. And that, in turn, is the conversation about intergenerational wealth. The wealth that I am generating for my family, my people, after I am dead and gone along. One of the most relevant set of issues that could face any small developing country in the world. But yet, Mr. Speaker, sir, the irony is that it is perhaps one of the least understood and one of the least discussed issues in Barbados. And not only in Barbados, sir, quite frankly, but across the Caribbean. Now, it is obvious, I think, sir, it goes without saying that there are no limitations that can be placed on human imagination. The categories of creativity are never closed. You know, in law, they say, sir, that the categories of negligence are never closed. You can't come to a point where you run out of instances where human beings will be negligent. You cannot come to a point where you run out of instances where human beings will be creative. And so therefore, to the extent that you or anyone else can generate an idea, and to the extent that you or anyone else can be creative, Mr. Speaker, sir, effectively you are in a position where your idea potentially can be monetized or translated into dollars and cents, and therefore you are on a pathway to economic empowerment. But that can only happen via the route of using the intellectual property law, and in this particular instance, sir, the law relating to copyright. Now, would that life would be just as simple as that? There are obviously, sir, some challenges along the way that we have to also be mindful of as a country. And that is what makes this conversation so important today. Because Barbados, sir, has to adapt to technological advancements, as does the rest of the world. We have to adapt, sir, and align to standards which are set by regulatory bodies internationally and by international treaties to which we have signed on to. So you will hear, Mr. Speaker, from time to time about the trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. I have a right in my intellectual property, and that will allow for me to trade. And I'm going to talk a little bit about that, because I must be able to move the literary work, the book that I have written. If I'm to truly be able to make money off of it, I must be able to write that book and move that book from Barbados, sir, to Trinidad, from Trinidad to Guyana, from Guyana to North America, from North America to Europe, wherever I want to sell that book. And that is and I do that, sir, my intellectual property rights from country to country are being protected so that I can continue to earn. And that is true whether when I'm selling my music, while I'm selling my craft, whether I am selling, Mr. Speaker, sir, my fashion. We've got a lot of young people, sir, who are into fashion design, and they must be able to do that. I believe that in the other place, Senator John King drew the attention of that chamber, sir, to an instance where our national hero, Rihanna, would have worn a costume that was done by a Barbadian lady who does crochet. And the fact that she wore it made it exceptionally appealing to others all around the world who wanted then to source the crochet work from this Barbadian lady. And for her, sir, to be able to move that crochet work around the world successfully and to be getting the returns on her investment financially, to make little money from it and to protect her interests, sir, therefore the whole copyright law and regulations would have to be applied. So that, Mr. Speaker, sir, the other challenge that is important for us is to make sure that we have conversations like this more often, and that perhaps, sir, we use the Parliament as a place where we can do a little bit more than have the cut and thrust between political parties, but that we could have a little bit more of an elevating discourse, sir, that helps to shape the society and understand and help people to improve their attitude with regard to the question of intellectual property. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to tailor my remarks really to those people who I think most need this, because let us face the facts. The big ups in Barbados will get through. The big ups in Barbados, sir, have gotten through. What we got to do is to make sure that those who are poor but talented, those who are poor, Mr. Speaker, sir, but disinherited, those who are poor but young and do not know, are put in a position, sir, where their future is made brighter, and that their ideas, it is conveyed to them clearly that their ideas can be a pathway to their own employment, and that their ideas can be a pathway to their own economic empowerment, that their ideas can be the pathway, sir, to making sure that they can protect and look after the financial interests and well-being of their families long after they're dead and gone. And Mr. Speaker, sir, that is the route as far as this honourable member is concerned for ending the crippling legacy of economic exclusion that we have had as part of the history of Barbados. Do not tell me, sir, that we do not have a society that is characterized by some people who are excluded and are on the margins of the society, while other people live large and get fat. That has been the history of Barbados, and frankly, sir, the mission of this government is to continue that battle towards rectifying that situation. Now, Perhaps one of the easiest ways of explaining why I've chosen this approach, sir, is to tell you a little story, because when I first looked at the copyright bill, I had said to the leader of government business that, as I think happened in the other place, where it was first debated, you know, you could do this bill in 5 minutes. You could. But if you did it in 5 minutes, sir, would you be doing justice to the national issues with which we're confronted? If you did it in 5 minutes, sir, would we be doing justice to the realities that are facing Barbados now, about which I feel a parliament has a duty to speak? Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, I weighed that in my mind, and then over the weekend I walked through a car park at the supermarket, and a young man stopped me. The rain was drizzling, so we run to the side and shelter. And he says to me, I wanted to stop you, Minister, because you practice law, right? So I said, well, I don't do it anymore, but I used to. But you can't practice no more. That's what I said. There's the old conversation going. You can't practice no more. So I said, well, no, I'm not allowed to because I'm a minister of government. He said, oh, shoot, but Minister, I didn't want to talk to you about getting a house. So I said, you want to buy a house? Well, I want to buy some property. That is really where I started to focus, because he looked very young to me. And I asked him how old he is. He told me he's 26. And I was pleased to hear a 26-year-old in Barbados talking to me in that way. And then, sir, I started to press him with what it is he does. I gave him some advice on what he has to do to negotiate the property transaction and where he should go and so on and so forth. But it is the broader picture that I want to share with the House, sir. Because he tells me, sir, that he fixes, right now, he's working with one of the companies in Barbados, which fix cell phones. But that is really his, quote unquote, his side hustle. So I said, well, if that's his side hustle, what's the main thing? He said, well, I do coding. So I paused. I said, you mean like you write software? He told me, yes. So I said, where did you learn to do that? His father, sir, is of Vincentian, and he went to technical college in St. Vincent, where he learned this thing, was introduced to it. He liked it. He developed a passion for it, so he says. And then he went to Canada, because his aunt lives in Canada. And while he was in Canada, sir, he was able to continue his training, so that now he actually tells me he's accredited to do software writing for a company called Apple. I don't know if you ever heard of Apple, sir. I don't know if you heard of Apple, but then the people that got all the cell phones and all the computers and things. Have you got a little fella here in Barbados, 26 years old, telling me he want to get a house and thing, and he's writing software. So I, again, was very impressed, because, you know, when you listen sometimes, sir, to the voices who oppose the government, you will think that all is gloom and doom when it comes to young people in Barbados, and that there's no hope, either on the horizon or at all. But that's not the point. He goes on, Mr. Speaker, sir, to tell me, in the conversation I said to him, but you know, have you given thought to doing this thing for yourself? Because once you're writing for somebody else, you're creating the code, yeah, and somebody paying, creating the software and somebody paying you, but have you ever thought that you could do it and sell, as opposed to be an employee? He tell me, but Minister, I could. But the truth is, I don't know how to do it here. I don't know how to navigate, that's the word used, but basically to get through that system. So his concern was, sir, not his ability. His concern was that he had a skill, but did not know how to translate that skill into some productive effort for himself, not just to get employed by Apple, but productive effort for himself, that he could be entrepreneurial in his own right. No, sir, that is what disturbed me, because I felt then, sir, that part of what I feel I have a duty to do is not only to engage the House on the positive role that intellectual property can play in enhancing this country's development needs, but, Mr. Speaker, sir, to look at the way in which we must now provide for our young people a better understanding of the pathways, sir, to progress and personal development. So I enter this debate, Mr. Speaker, sir, from that perspective. It is one, sir, where I feel I can make an irrefutable statement that the developing world, which is where we live, the countries of the South, whether it's the Caribbean region, whether it's Africa, Latin America, if the other hemisphere, you've got the islands of the Pacific and so on, rich with cultural and creative heritage, sir. Rich with cultural and creative heritage. There is no dearth in the developing world, Mr. Speaker, sir, in terms of creative talent. There's no dearth in the developing world in terms of the heritage assets that we have, which are capable of being exploited and translated into economic activity for our people. But what is missing is two things: that we have not driven home this point sufficiently, that the young people of Barbados, age 16 perhaps, 17, 15, and in that general age category, see as part of the potential development opportunities for themselves a journey that takes them to using their skills, their dreams, their ideas, utilizing them by themselves and translating them into careers of entrepreneurial activity where they can be creating the building blocks, not just for the family today, but for the grandchildren and great-grandchildren tomorrow. Not, sir, a Barbados where, as I believe is true, certainly in my experience, many of our young people have been led to believe that the journey to personal success is to write a job letter application, or to come to a cabinet minister or an MP and ask for a reference, or worse yet, sir, expect that that is the way you want to get a job. That is where post-colonial parliament, sir, and I'm being very frank now, and I embrace all, because there were some greats who bestrode the earth like Colossus in this place. There was the Errol Barrows and the Tom Adamses and the Bernard St. Johns and Erskine Sandifords, and you know the list of the prime ministers, Mr. Speaker. But it is for us now to go where they did not take us. Now I want to say, sir, that what is also missing in the developing world is the evidence that there is substantial real numbers of economic growth activity attributed to creative talent. Let me say that again. As you look around the developing world, pregnant as it is with potential, you have fantastic films coming out of Africa. You've got fantastic fashion design coming out of Africa. You have countless, Mr. Speaker, sir, the Caribbean is full of musicians and musical talent. And each one of us, sir, got festivals, national festivals, where every year we throw music and demonstrate creativity, whether it be drama, whether it be dance, whatever it is, Mr. Speaker, that blows the mind of the world. But what we are not seeing, sir, is substantial real numbers in economic growth, which is attributed to that creative talent. And we have at some point to ask ourselves why. And unless we have this discussion, which I hope, sir, can take us apart from the tendency is to come here and to use here not to have this discussion, or discussions like this, but to use this place, sir, as a place where we have the theater of twiddly-dee and twiddly-dum. So I say something about my party and its history, and somebody else will say something about their party and its history, and when the bacchanal over and the theater is finished, Mr. Speaker, sir, no substance, it is froth on the water. Like you see, the froth will come and it will rush back out. Well, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am mindful that there are those who have tender ears and minds that need to be filled with passion and a sense of purpose. Mr. Speaker, sir, I want to say that it is not only here that we have this challenge. Let us be very real. I'm going to be very real with the House today. You know, I remember, sir, as a young cabinet minister back in 2000, I think it was 5 or 4, Edward Seaga, the former Prime Minister of Jamaica, had come to the end of his 45 years in Parliament. He served the Parliament of Jamaica for 45 years. And when Prime Minister Siaga came to the end of, he was a two-term Prime Minister, you will recall, sir. When he came to the end of his 45 years, he did an interview, I think it was with the Jamaica Gleaner. And he indicated, sir, that the Jamaica he saw then was the Jamaica he saw when he went into Parliament. There's a Prime Minister that served twice and 45 years of service. And he used the word, this is the language he used, is a Jamaica of haves, where there are those people who are the haves, and they are resplendent with their material possessions, Mr. Speaker, sir, and modernity and their affluence. And then there's a Jamaica of have-nots, where despite the rich culture of Jamaica, you see no transformation of the people. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, it struck me, I would never forget it, because that was a Prime Minister. That's the irony, because he served 2 terms as Prime Minister. And perhaps one of the greater ironies, I don't want to get into politics of Jamaica, but one of the greater ironies is that he would have been the major opponent of a man who arguably was the most progressive of the Jamaican Prime Ministers, and that is Michael Manley. But what it said to me, sir, then, and I feel is relevant now, is that it is an indictment on the way in which we have operated as post-colonial parliaments. And it is, Mr. Speaker, sir, a source of concern that we have not gone into the developmental toolbox in a way that allows for us to make sure that our young people are not only educated on some of these issues, but understand how the issues can be worked, how the tools can be used and manipulated for their own personal development, the development of their friends and their communities, Mr. Speaker, and by extension, the development of the country. Now, what is our reality in Barbados? In this country, Mr. Speaker, sir, as I said, we have seen several excellent musicians. I don't have to name them for you, sir. As you see crop over come along, or if you cast your mind back to any crop over, they come to mind rapidly, one after the other. And each of those musicians, Mr. Speaker, sir, records his work or her work, because some are female, at exceptional expense for long hours. There was a time, sir, when you couldn't do the recording in Barbados. I believe it would be true to say that when we were little boys, the artists had to go to West Indies Records Limited, which I believe was located in the same Jamaica. And if memory serves me correctly, the same Prime Minister Siaga was the man who owned West Indies Records Limited. I may be misleading the House on that, but I think that that is correct. And Mr. Speaker, sir, the artists invest their time. Obviously, they have to invest money. Sometimes, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is borrowed money because, again, let me use a man like Griner or Gabby. It really don't matter in Barbados today. It don't matter under the arrangements we now have in the commercial banks and so on. You then walk in a commercial bank and say, see me here, I was Royal March King last year, so let me $10,000, $15,000 to do a recording. That's not the conversation, sir, that is likely to take place. Because the bank is going to say to you, they want collateral. You may have been Royal March King for 5-6 years. The fact that you got a song and you said that you were Royal March King before don't mean that I gave you money, or that you went in the pick of the crop final and you finished 5th, don't mean that you go in the bank the next Monday morning and they're going to give you any money. The fact that you finished 5th means nothing to capital in this country, sir. It means nothing to the commercial houses there in Bridgetown. Give thanks that again, motor car to drive boat or a piece of land, but it means no further. This is the naked truth of the Barbados we live in. So therefore, it is a hardship on those people when they make that type of investment. You go and borrow money, and what the kind of money you got to look for? You got to find a studio and block the studio. That can cost money. Book the studio and block it for maybe a day, a half day, however long. Then you got to find money for the equipment that has to be used in the recording. The musicians and so on, because they just come in to do everything for free. And the fees that have to be used for the equipment, sir, Mr. Speaker, if you go rent that equipment, comes at cost. And then if the recording is a complex thing, and I know a little bit about this, If it's a complex thing, sir, clearly it's going to cost more money than if it is that you're going to do a 30-second commercial. So you are facing a wave of financial obligation just as you start. Now, sir, it is the most violent offense when you do all of that. And as Senator John King said in the other place, you walk the streets of New York and a man come to you to sell you the recording that he made. Now, don't laugh, but that is the experience of all of our entertainers. That they put themselves to all that expense, all that trouble to provide music here. And then, sir, somebody pirates it. And it is sold elsewhere, and you don't see a red set for it. And in John case, somebody come to him and say, buy this here. You like this song, Skipper? When he look, but hey, why is the man that saying this here? No, sir. That is not only true of music, because there are people who have written plays. There are people who have done performances here, sir. And you know, it is an amazing thing. You sit down in the back of auditorium somewhere, and you watch a play, and you look around, and you see somebody holding up a camera, recording it. And you may feel, Mr. Speaker, sir, well, this is just somebody that, you know, it might be family to one of the performers, and they're recording it for the purpose of sharing it with the family when done. But that is being sold. And the people who there work and went to rehearsals and put in the time and the effort, the people who wrote the play, they ain't gonna see 5 cents. But the man that sat down and pirated gonna hold the money. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, when once you have that situation, you have to recognize 2 things. One, what our people are doing, we have traditionally treated as a hobby. But it need not be seen only as a hobby. And that's where we have failed the young generation, sir, because when they have tremendous skills as they have, and there's a school that comes to my mind, not the one that is present in the House now, sir, but in the constituency of the Honourable Member. I'm not sure the location, which constituency. Is it, which foundation is it? Which foundation, you? On the border of a well, okay. But anyhow, foundation school, it's not any constituency. But they have a wonderful school orchestra. Steel pan. Fantastic steel pan orchestra, sir. I mean, they play some fantastic music. And as a youngster in Trinidad at law school, one of my pastimes was to go to the pan yards where we listen to Despers and them so playing. I like the steel pan. Excellent spazia with a stone's throw away. And especially when they're coming out to competition time, you go and listen to the runs. And the men ain't gonna play the whole song because people coming to teach the thing, so they're gonna play a little piece. And then another night they'll practice another piece. But Mr. Speaker, sir, when I listen to those youngsters from Foundation, I am moved. And the passion that they bring to it, and they obviously like it. But Mr. Speaker, the point that I make is that at that level, you're being introduced, and yes, it may well be a hobby. But when once they get to a later stage in life, that skill is now to be transferred, not just to be hobby, but that is a earning potential skill that you have in your hand. And we got to protect that skill and encourage innovation in that skill. And make those people who are in this creative economy sector feel that there is now money to be made in their innovation, in their creativity, and in the skills that they possess, Mr. Speaker, sir, that people will come to a performance and pay good money for at the door and go away feeling this was an evening worth my while. No, sir, to get across that bridge from hobby class to business class, to left hobby class and get to business class, we have to have the government being deeply involved in this. There's a duty for government. And I want to say to you, Mr. Speaker, sir, that as I look to my right just now, I saw the Minister of Agriculture. And it occurred to me that this is not a matter that is fundamentally different to what Barbados has to grapple with in the agricultural sector. In the agricultural sector, Mr. Speaker, sir, there's a thing called predial larceny. a similar type of scourge, where a farmer would get up every morning, do everything he can to raise crops, Mr. Speaker, sir. And by the time he go to bed the night, some boy come and rake up everything and go along with it, and he don't see a cent. And in the same way, sir, that undermines the farmers' commercial effort, it undermines the national economic output, Mr. Speaker, sir. It undermines sectoral growth, and government has a duty to step in. In the same way, sir, government has a duty to step in order to protect the innovation economy. And it is a valuable sector. Were I not here today, Mr. Speaker, I was notified that I have to lead this. Were I not here, I would have been in Geneva at this point, attending the 16th session of UNCTAD. You would recall that we chaired UNCTAD the 15th, and the handing over is being done in Geneva today. And Mr. Speaker, the reality is that the actual data that they sent to me on some of the global performances, I found quite interesting. UNCTAD, sir, is telling us that 4% of the world's economy, the global economy, comprises this sector that we're talking about today, the creative industries, 4% of the global economy. And that is worth some 2.5 trillion United States dollars. But that's nothing to sneeze at, 2.5 trillion. Now, obviously, the amount that each country contributes will vary based on the size of the country's economy and the size of its creative sector. And you will imagine, Mr. Speaker, that a place like United States with Los Angeles there and all the filmmaking and the global cinematography that they do will be a big chunk. But then, Mr. Speaker, sir, there are other sectors that are showing tremendous growth as well. And those include, sir, music, e-books and audio and e-books and books for the hearing impaired, video games, esports. And if you talk to the young people in Barbados, Mr. Speaker, that's where a lot of their minds are. My son now left a little bit of that behind now that he gone to university. But it was one of the most difficult things to stop him from playing sports on the internet. I had a quarrel with the boy to study. That's where his passion was. Video games. I think that is true of virtually every young man and young woman in Barbados. And I will not talk about music because we know already how our people feel about music. But Mr. Speaker, sir, I feel that therefore there's a duty to promote and encourage innovation via not only the legislation, which is where we are today, but, sir, via the educational conversation that we have to have on these matters. And that is why government has come here with this bill, Mr. Speaker. And with similar pieces of legislation, may I say, because if I could just follow the musical analogy, you know, there was a spooge group in Barbados called the Draytons 2. I believe their names were Fowl and Zora.
Correct.
And they would tell you, sir, that they ain't come to drink, they come, sir, to drink milk, not to count cow. We haven't come, sir, to count cow. We come, sir, to make sure that the young people of Barbados could drink milk. You with me? We come simply to count cow. And, Mr. Speaker, sir, that simply means that you have to translate the potential of this sector. You have to translate the potential of this sector into real material gains. And I think that is what gives rise now to a broader conversation about how we are treating to micro business in Barbados and to small business development. Because effectively, I don't want to see the creator of the idea, whether it is a musical performer, whether it is, sir, a writer of a book or a play. Mr. Speaker, I don't want us just to see these people as doing something as a pastime. Let us see them through a different lens, a developmental lens, a business-focused lens. And then, sir, engage. When I talk to my constituents, as I'm sure you, sir, you have to talk to yours, you realize that, and we gotta be honest, let's be honest, there is a preference in Barbados for people getting a job in government. And you ask yourself, why is that?
Unskilled job.
Huh? Why is that? What makes it the first instinct to say, use the MP, Yeah. You can help me with a job? A government job. Now, there are two schools of thought usually, Mr. Speaker, sir. There are those who feel, as I do, that the folks who are in that position look at the risk of going out into the private sector. They look at the question of job security, and they say, look, I could try a thing in the private sector, or I could start my own job, Mr. Speaker, but then there's a risk associated with that. And that risk frightens them because they are averse to taking that risk without having guardrails to rely on. It is like an old lady going down the stairs, Mr. Speaker, so she won't hold on to the rail to make sure she don't fall. If you're not raised in an environment where every day your mother and your father tell you about the economics of the country or the business environment of the country, Mr. Speaker, so if you're not raised in an environment as where the Indians next door there in Swan Street are raised, that their children on a Easter vacation and in a summer vacation and in a Christmas vacation got a store to go and work in and sit down at the cash register, sir, and take money and take change, Mr. Speaker, sir, and help sort out the shelves, and therefore they have a constant understanding from the time that they are old enough to walk and talk about what business is. If that has not been your exposure, when you get to 20 years old, you are going to be a little bit unsure of how you can function in that environment. Why you didn't have the benefit of being oriented into it. It is strange to you. Mr. Speaker, you ain't just wake up in the morning and start practicing law. You had to be oriented to the point where you could practice law. And this is where we are failing our people. So I feel, Mr. Speaker, sir, I am not one who will say that people want a job in government because they don't really want to work or that they're lazy. I feel that is, sir, that we are failing in other ways to give people the security of going on their own. The fear, sir, of being able to start up. How do I find the money to start my business? Forgive me if I speak to the House in these very candid terms, Mr. Speaker, because there's not a man in here who can be true to himself or woman and not say that they have not encountered a constituent who has a fear of starting their own business based, first of all, on how they raise the capital. And that is why the intervention that this administration made, sir, with regard to the creation of the Barbados Trust Fund was so critical, because it allowed for people to go to the trust fund with nothing but an idea. You didn't need a cent in your pocket. You went with an idea. You sit down and people talk you through the idea and give you an understanding of how you can move that idea from just a thought and a concept into a lived reality. And you come out with a $5,000 loan. And then they work with you to help you understand. You got to do the accounting in the business though. You got to make sure that you are separating your accounts receivable from your accounts payable. You got to make sure that you understand your market. Who are you selling to? What you're producing, are you selling? Who do you intend to sell it to? You have then to be able to make sure, sir, that above the marketing, there may be some legal regulations you know that I have to come across and come into contact with. What are those legal regulations? How do you meet them and overcome them? Mr. Speaker, sir, up until the start of this administration's life, that was not being done at micro level in Barbados. And that's a fact. Now, above and beyond that, the other concern that our people have is that if I give you my idea, and this is where they had before, sir, when we were growing up, when there was none of these institutions, the trust fund and fund access and so on, work, but where they had to go in a bank. And the fear of our people was, I have an idea, but I sit down with the bank manager, I hear sometimes that the man is thief my idea, and then don't give me the money, and next day here to shout to them, boy, doing what they want to do. That has been heard all around Barbados. And Mr. Speaker, sir, that is why the concept of protecting your idea becomes so important. And that is why the copywriting issue becomes so important. But Mr. Speaker, sir, these are just some of the pitfalls. Another pitfall we see we read about in the paper yesterday, I believe it was, and that is in the public transportation sector. And other sectors, let me just say public transportation, where standards of business in Barbados are not rising. They are, in fact, in danger of falling. And irrespective of what sector you go, you are seeing, Mr. Speaker, sir, an element of complacency being creeping in to the way in which people are doing business in this country. So I don't only want to make it about a minibus that turn over with little children in it, but we know that in that sector, standards are falling. We also know, Mr. Speaker, sir, that standards are falling in your profession and mine. We know that the sense of unaccountability to client is a serious thing in the legal profession. We know, Mr. Speaker, sir, that standards are falling in the medical profession. So let us not make it about any one category or sector of the society. We have to look at Barbados in a holistic way and see whether or not we are being true to ourselves in building up what I would want to call a standards-driven economy, an economy in which we are asking all players, irrespective of what you do, to do it to the very best of your ability and in accordance with a certain minimum standard. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, again, you know, it is unfortunate that the House don't have these conversations, but in the same way that we can have that conversation about standards, and I don't want to anticipate the legislation, but a bill will shortly come here on metrology, which is the standards relating to measurement. But equally, Mr. Speaker, we have to have the conversation about intellectual property more broadly, because these are the pitfalls, sir, that are humbugging our people. And it is in that context, sir, that I have come here today to interrogate the role that intellectual property plays, especially copyright, in the context of entrepreneurial activity. So we need to understand, Mr. Speaker, sir, why copyright matters to micro business. I do not see the micro practitioner, irrespective of whether he is to be found down by the Bridgetown Harbour, in Pelican Village, doing art. Some brilliant artists down there. I do not see the micro practitioner, the micro creative, sir, if he is the man, sir, that doing leather craft, such as the band that I wear here on my right wrist, that beautifully engraved Barbados, Mr. Speaker, sir, or even more simple one that just go on the skull and green. I don't see them, sir, as doing these things as a pastime, because they ain't got nothing better to do. There's an element of creativity involved, sir, and that creativity has economic potential, and therefore, sir, it is worthy of being treated seriously by the government. Because virtually all business, whether great or small, interacts with copyright either as a creator of the copyright or as a user of the copyright. And as I said before, copyright is just about protecting people's ideas, protecting it in any form, protecting if it is a written text, protect it if it is a film, protect it, sir, if it is music, protect it, sir, if it is data, if it is software, if it is paintings, if it is graphic arts, if it is fashion design. Mr. Speaker, sir, give the creator, sir, that ability to have his or her work protected. Now, all of that is relevant for a very important reason. Because once I have the copyright and I own it, then, Mr. Speaker, sir, it's almost like a magic wand in my hand. I have the ability to choose who can use my work, whatever my work may be, and I can choose who is not going to use my work. I can choose, sir, how my work is going to be used and by whom it will be used. And that power of choice, sir, is the empowering impulse that this House must confront Barbadians with. Now, inherent in that choice, sir, is the choice, sir, as I said, the power to exploit the right however I want. Now, what does that mean in simple terms? If I've done my piece of music, I can decide, sir, that I want to perform it myself. Alternatively, I can say to an artist who got a better voice than me, I can say to Almighty Gabby, perform this for me, Skipper. And in exchange for that, I am going to get some fees, I'm going to get some royalties, I get some commission, however you wish to however you wish to term it, Mr. Speaker, sir, I get money. And more importantly, sir, I have recognition. And that recognition is a very important point because that is how I get known for what I do. We have, sir, seen in this country a man who taught the Honourable Member for Christchurch East, I believe. He certainly taught me, and certainly would have taught the Honourable Member for Christchurch West French when we were at school. He's passed and gone to the great beyond, sir. I don't know that he ever got any recognition for the multiple calypsos he wrote in this country. He was almost anonymous and unknown. But without him, sir, it is fair to say that the crowns that have been worn by calypso kings, especially from the quote-unquote Republic of St. Philip, sir, it ain't gonna happen. The man would have written and written and written. That recognition point is a critical point. And even in that, there was money for him that he did and never saw because he never got the recognition. Because we treat to these things, sir, we talk about our major national festival, but we treat to it as though there's a mock sport thing. Where for other people, sir, it is a big money opportunity. Now, I feel, Mr. Speaker, sir, that I have to say a word or two on not just what's happened in Barbados, but the opportunity that has presented itself outside of Barbados. Because the revenue streams that can be created as a result of holding copyright mean that copyright is really a vehicle for cross-border supply of services. Those services may come in the form, sir, of films. It could be, sir, that I write my software. I can stay here in Barbados, sir, and move that without leaving the country. I can move that, sir, electronically into the United States. I can send it to the Apple headquarters, sir, wherever that may be in the world. I can send it to Samsung. I can send it to whoever I want, Mr. Speaker, sir. And I only leave Barbados a day. That mode of supply, cross-border supply. Mr. Speaker, sir, when COVID hit and people couldn't move, that electronic means of moving services became 40% more valuable than ever before in history. The traditional way in which we earned money in this country, people moving from America to Barbados to consume a tourism service, that fell, sir, by 60%. You understand what I'm saying? That there is a resilience. There is a resilience, Mr. Speaker, in the creative economy. And as I said to you before, the tragedy in this is that the country treats the creative and the creative economy as a secondary consideration in economic development. When really and truly, Mr. Speaker, sir, it is well poised to be one of the leading parts of the financial architecture of Barbados. Now, sir, what are some of the practical examples? There is an excellent work written by a most widely respected author who has now gone to the great beyond. His name is George Lamming. His work is called In the Castle of My Skin. I use that as an example because I know that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition is one of his fans. And it may be one of the few things that the Honourable Leader of the Opposition and I share in common. But that piece of literature, Mr. Speaker, sir, has never been reduced into a format that is able to be consumed by people who are blind. If it was, it would have been as relevant to the blind person as it is, sir, to the sighted. It has never been reduced into a format, sir, which is like an audio book. It has never been reduced, Mr. Speaker, sir, into a multiplicity of languages. I believe, Mr. Speaker, that that is true of all of the greats of this region. C.L.R. James, one of the most famous of the writers in the Caribbean, Mr. Speaker, sir, does not have a single one of his texts that are reduced, sir, into French or into Dutch. But yet, sir, they are relevant, his texts are relevant to the sociological development of every island of the Caribbean. As I tell you, the weakness that we are confronting, sir, is not limited to Barbados. It is a regional weakness. The software packaging of our literary works, our musical works, our dramatic production, sir, is a critical component in what should be the revenue earning of the country as we map out a strategy to trade with the rest of the world. There is a feeling that when you talk about trade and earning foreign exchange, you do so only by looking at the big, large conglomerates and corporations. Mr. Speaker, sir, I go back to the point. UNCTAD is telling us that the trade statistics are indicating that there's close to 3 trillion United States dollars to be made in the use of your creativity as you trade it from country to country, from consumers abroad benefiting from what you produce here. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, how do we go into a toolkit to make sure that our micro business entrepreneurs are better equipped to be able to deliver on this potential? These are the conversations that a serious parliament has to have if it is to be worthy of leading the country into the future. Now, Mr. Speaker, if I go into Latin America, I will find a concept in many of the Latin American republics called a collateral registry. As Minister of Business here, I began the work with regard to a collateral registry in Barbados. I want to tell you a true story, sir, and I do not say this to impugn the ability of anybody, but just to tell you how sometimes, sir, we in this country have become comfortable to sit on a cushion of comfort while we watch other people walk on a bed of nails. So I convened a meeting with the Banking Association of Barbados. And in that meeting of the Banking Association, I'm saying to them, I want the country to go on the route of being able to ensure that our micro business people can use as collateral those things that they have, those tools of their trade. For example, the fisherman has a vessel. Some got 2 or 3 vessels, and the vessel has worth. But when he goes to the bank, sir, the bank is not interested in holding his vessel as collateral. The bank is telling him, what land do you have? What property do you have? What's the real estate against which you wish to borrow this $100,000? And he says, but I don't own any land. But if you don't own any land, then you can't lend any money. Because the thinking in the financial sector, as it currently is constituted, is a very orthodox and traditional one, which has existed, sir, from the time there was a King Henry and a Queen Elizabeth, sir, them kind of things, all through the years. You've got to get a piece of land if you're going to borrow some money. You've got to own a house or something if you're going to borrow some money. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, it has been modernized slightly, and you may get a few cents on your old car. But I ain't getting further than that. Your officer, your law office, has in computer, it gone in furnishings, it has in text, volumes of text. You are well-read attorney at law. Volumes of text that have worth. Mr. Speaker, sir, there's not a bank in Barbados that looking at you and say, I am going to lend you $150,000 against those things. And I say to them, we have to change this. We have to come to the point where the farmer, sir, who got stock, and this is why I said to the people in the banking community, the livestock that the farmer holding is livestock that has value. And that the livestock that the farmer holding and that has value should be able to be the collateral against which the farmer then takes out a loan and says, I want to expand the farming operation I have by bringing new equipment. I want to start a milking parlor because I feel that I can keep some cows and get milk. But Mr. Speaker, sir, do you know what I was told? But Minister, and there's a man sitting down across from me calling himself an executive. He says, but Minister, I don't understand what the bank will want to do with livestock. The bank ain't got nowhere to put livestock. And that told me, sir, that told me the depth of the problem that we are confronting. And I had to explain to him. I'm not asking your bank to hold any livestock. I'm not asking you to keep sheep behind the counter. What I'm saying to you is that you take out a bill against this livestock or against whatever else, the fisherman's vessel, whatever. I ask you to put a vessel in the back of the bank. What I'm saying is, you take out this bill, and then if the person who has borrowed the money cannot pay back, then a secondary market will be created so that you can sell that which you hold on the secondary market to recoup the funds that you have lent out. No, we don't have that secondary market in Barbados. And it will take time for us to come to Parliament and build out that secondary market, and I believe that that is the work that the business ministry is now involved in and engaged in. But Mr. Speaker, sir, this is the conceptual direction that the country must go in. And I make no apology for saying that there is a bankruptcy of thought on some of these matters. So that, Mr. Speaker, sir, the creative, whose idea can be copyrighted, whose idea therefore has value, should, against the backdrop of the reputation of that creative, and if I use Grain as another example, sir, it no longer would it be that it does not matter that he has an illustrious record in music, because that record in music, complete with a fresh new script and a fresh new idea, would mean that it should be automatic that he can borrow against it, because there is the reputational significance, first of all, and secondly, Mr. Speaker, sir, the idea itself got value. But that is to introduce an entirely different wave of economic thinking in this country, and an entirely different approach for micro-business people who don't have a mother and father that left them an inheritance, who, as I said at the beginning, Mr. Speaker, sir, must be engaged in this matter, because there are people in Barbados who are talented but poor, who are young and talented but poor, who, sir, are poor and marginalized, but who have the ability to be creative and to transform that creativity, sir, into financial opportunity. Now, Mr. Speaker, I go further and I say to you that the system of copyright itself is a system that gives rise to other opportunities in the context, sir, of the intangible asset or the idea being used through its significant value to drive economic rent. I can issue, sir, licenses to use my work. I can issue permits to use my work. And against that backdrop, Mr. Speaker, sir, my film or if you want to record something cinematographically, I think that's the word, my play, whatever it is, against that I can get my royalties, Mr. Speaker, sir. I perform my songs, sir, for royalties, or you perform rather my songs for royalties. And, sir, most importantly, I have the right, if I choose, to dispose of my work as an asset. I can transfer it to somebody else, or I can assign it to somebody else. Now, once we have this kind of conversation taking place widely and it becomes more easily understood to people in our creative sector, then it is important for us, sir, to take it to the next level. And as a parliament, first of all, because parliament must go where others are afraid to go. And then, sir, at policy level, or perhaps I go the other way, policy first, then parliament, to engage, Mr. Speaker, sir, on what is the balance that we want in this society and economy. Because even as this legislation that I'm bringing to the House offers the opportunity to transfer copyright from myself to the Honourable Member to Christchurch West because he can sing better than me, or he might have access to greater capital than I have, and so therefore he may be able to exploit it to a greater extent than I can. We have, sir, to be able to make sure that there are ways and means of our creatives understanding the pitfalls involved. And I say, why? Sir, the history of the developed world has been that, the history of the developing world, people like us, people like our brothers and sisters in the African continent, people in Latin America, our shared history has been that there are those, sir, who have come from the developed countries, who have come to get access to our material resources, whether those resources be the natural resources like oil, sir, diamonds, bauxite. They come, sir, the extractive industries, and they take all that they can. Mr. Speaker, sir, we give them the right to do the extraction. Having done the extraction, Mr. Speaker, sir, because they are, in the most part, large foreign entities, they have skills that we don't have, they have capital that we don't have, they have the extractive capacity to take our minerals to market, Mr. Speaker, sir. And then once they have done that, sir, they reap large returns, but what they have left in their wake is a cycle of persistent poverty. That is what happened with our sugar industry, sir. That is what has happened with oil. That is what has happened, sir, with many, many, many industries. Now, sir, if we are going to treat seriously the copyright as a gateway to national development, then, sir, we're going to make sure we don't make the same mistakes of the past. And I have spent a little bit of time in my academic career looking, sir, at places like the African continent, especially sub-Saharan Africa. I have looked, Mr. Speaker, sir, at the Latin American situation. And I realized, sir, that there are certain characteristics that those economies have, which are very similar to ours. And these are countries, sir, you remember I began by saying, there is a disconnect between the tremendous wealth of talent that we find in the developing countries of the South and the economic returns that have come from the exploitation and development of that talent. I tend to say the talent in there, but the money has not followed it. Where then has the money gone? The truth is, Mr. Speaker, sir, that in all of our profiles, the characteristics economically are very similar. We are fragile economies. Many of us share relatively underdeveloped micro-enterprise support systems. The support system in Barbados, sir, is perhaps growing and improving at a more rapid rate than most of the places. I just gave you an example of the creation of the fund access, sir. We have an enterprise growth fund. We have, sir, the Barbados Trust Fund, etc. And the work that they do, sir, is very complementary, with each entity working hand in glove with the other. But, Mr. Speaker, sir, we have to understand that we are on a development trajectory. There is still more to be done. But the other area that is very similar to what is happening in Africa and Latin America in terms of their development challenges is that there is an artisanal approach to micro-enterprise. It is, as I just said, almost like a pastime. It's something that you do to get through. It ain't really seen as a major business. And therefore, sir, in the context of national economic development, it is more marginalized. Those people are on the periphery of the national economy. Now, my view, sir, is that that is a flawed perspective for national development, and for a number of reasons. First of all, sir, you really can't seriously be talking about diversifying your economy if you're going to leave out of the main frame of the architectural design for the future those people who, because of their creative talent, can earn you foreign exchange and can keep employment generated. So I think that is the first thing. It helps. What the creative sector does is to help with diversification of the local economy. It also, Mr. Speaker, sir, helps us to preserve our national heritage. And the example that I gave you earlier with the lady who was doing the design that Rihanna wore, that's our national heritage. That is something that your grandmother, your great-aunt, great-grandmother would have done. And sir, that's part of the heritage of the country. The need, sir, for us to be able to empower what would otherwise be underrepresented groups. Those little small players, sir, those little small players who may have been treated as being so minor that they do not factor in a major way into economic planning. Now, sir, in all of that, there is job-oriented growth. And I don't care, sir, where you find the micro-artisan. It could be the fisherman who, in addition to being a fisherman, might be involved in boat building. That is part of the heritage of the country that we should be preserving. It could be the graphic artist, sir. It could be, Mr. Speaker, sir, the software writer. All of these sectors, bar none, or subsectors, all of them, sir, play a role, sir, with respect to diversification of this country's economy. But the mischief that was identified in Latin America that we have to avoid, the mischief that was identified in sub-Saharan Africa that we have to avoid at all costs, is the fact that because the legislation there, like the legislation here, and in keeping with what is recommended by the World Intellectual Property Organization, which governs copyright, the legislation, sir, allows for and encourages this phenomena of transferring my rights in the copyright to somebody else. But, sir, in most cases, as I said, you can transfer your right largely because of the fact that you don't have the material resources to economically exploit that right or to develop it yourself. So you feel that you have written a good book, people tell you there's an excellent book, but you got to get it published, you got to get it, et cetera, and you don't have the ability, sir. You might be able to get it published, but then to translate it into multiple languages, to get it done in Braille, to get it done however else, digitally, etc. The capital to get that done and to get it to market across the world, sir, you repose that in somebody else. Very often what has happened in those circumstances, sir, is that along comes a non-national foreign entity with skills, with capital, with the capacity to do the development of the product, sir. And Mr. Speaker, sir, they then do what they have to do, but they leave you bereft, sir, of the returns that are commensurate with what you deserve. And that is exactly what has happened in our extractive industries. And what we must be aiming at, sir, is to avoid a repetition of that in the context of the copyright sector. If you're going to treat it as an industry or a bridge to development that is foreign exchange earning, then let us not make the same mistakes of the past. And that is why it is vitally important to have a conversation like this where we can identify some of the things that we need to do more of. The Barbados Trust Fund, for example, is a quiet success story that needs to be told. Many people don't know, sir, that the trust fund teaching people about franchising of their work. In fact, many people in Barbados may not even know what a franchise is. But the fact of the matter is, Mr. Speaker, sir, that the way in which KFC has spread its wings right across the world, and virtually every country you could think of, is through the franchising. I find you, Mr. Speaker, I give you the franchise, you run the business, you are going to maximize the growth of my brand because you taking it and running with it. I benefit, sir, from a wider distribution of the brand and what the brand produces, sir. But because you taking it and running with it, I am minimizing the capital investment because that now becomes yours. And Mr. Speaker, sir, equally, I am minimizing my liability risk. You have the franchise. but you got to run it in accordance with the standards I give to you and I tell you to keep. So my job is to come down or to send some people down to make sure that you on stream and on track doing things in the way I want them to be done. But this is what the trust fund is now teaching some of our small entrepreneurs, so that they will not content themselves, as does our friends at Chefette, with having God knows how many outlets on one little rock, but nowhere else in the world. But that, sir, you move your product across borders so that you can be able to replicate that which you do successfully in Barbados elsewhere, but be able to derive foreign exchange earnings from it. You understand what I'm saying, sir? That we stop, in other words, we stop treating to micro business people as though they are incapable and incompetent in the era, in the realm of foreign exchange earning. But that the foreign exchange earning potential of the country is only fully recognized and realized when we cast a wide net that brings all, not just the well-to-do at the Chamber of Commerce, but, sir, the fledgling who have potential. The people in the parish of St. Andrew, there was a story in the paper the other day, our lady's house burned down. She was a wine producer and exporting wine in a little house in St. Andrew, Mr. Speaker, sir. And there are more of that across Barbados. Now, I kid you not, I met a lady who has a snacker in this country who has done that franchising. And she now has, the franchise is now being held by somebody in Florida who is carrying her brand. The franchise is held by somebody, I believe it is Atlanta or Alabama, who is carrying her brand. And this Barbadian bred and born, simple owner of a snackette, through the work of the trust fund, is now being able to move her product, sir, across the world. These are the stories, sir, that we need to talk about. And if you don't know, you can't aspire to be. So if people don't know, they can't aspire to do it as well. And that's part of the problem. Hand in glove with that, sir, must be the ongoing effort to have financial literacy. That's not to say to anybody that you are illiterate, but that you need to become more understanding about things like planning the succession for your business. After I finish with this business and I can do it no more, what happens next? Do you close the doors and shut it down? Or does the business go on? And if it goes on, through who and how? The question, sir, of investments, what are the appropriate type of investments to make and how to go about them? The question of managing your debt, the question of budgeting, Mr. Speaker, sir, these are critical issues. And as I just indicated to you, quite frankly, there are not only issues that humbug small players, there are issues that humbug some of the high and mighty. In the profession that the Speaker of the House practices, and that I practice, and that the Leader of the Opposition practices, there are lawyers who cannot keep their hand out of their client's account. And on repeat occasions, there are situations where lawyers dip a hand in the client money and then get in trouble. Some have gone to prison for it. This, sir, is not necessarily ignorance of financing. That might be a certain level of recklessness. But the point is, sir, there is a need to treat to the education on these issues. It happens in high place. It happens, sir, Mr. Speaker, sir. There's evidence of it even in the Parliament of Barbados, where matters that should be straightforward, financial matters, sir, are exposed as being matters which have obviously challenged people mentally and they can't overcome the challenge. I recall, sir, that it would have been June of this year, probably towards the end of June, the government would have issued a bond of $500 million. And the purpose of that, but that bond, sir, was in order to repay, I think it was about 340 or 330 million that would have been from an earlier loan. We were to pay $140 million to the IMF. And Mr. Speaker, sir, it would have left a little elbow room for the Minister of Finance, another 25 million to do some other things, put some sidings on some old people's house, fix people's roof and that kind of thing, sir. for the balance of the year. And Mr. Speaker, sir, that bond was snapped up in the international financial market. 90 people, 90 entities came after that 500 million offering. All we thought was well. And then in the other place, which they call the Senate, a senator jumps up and wreaks havoc. He says, oh there, government is borrowing money to pay off a loan. And it is at a higher interest rate, if I recall correctly. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, there are some times when logic and good judgment must precede the opening of one's mouth. The example, sir, worries me, because here we have in the highest chambers of the land a situation, sir, which we see in our professional practice every day, every blessed day. Mr. Speaker, sir, I can't count the amount of times I've had a client who come to me and say that they want to replace a current mortgage with a new one. I can't count the amount of times, sir, somebody got a loan on the house and they got a lot of debt. They got debt because the child had to go overseas to get medical care, they couldn't get here. They got debt because the child gone overseas to study. They got debt, Mr. Speaker, sir, because they run up a credit card foolishly among some other expenses that they did not need and did not manage properly. So you go and you refinance, Mr. Speaker, sir. You secure the cash that you want, sir. And on closing of that exercise, sir, you use the cash to consolidate and pay off your debt. But this is not rocket science. It is not. But the whole country was treated to a parade of woe and misery because government effectively did the same thing. Government consolidated debts and paid them off. And money has a cost. However you go about raising the money, it comes at a cost. And in all of those cases, Mr. Speaker, sir, the bank is going to give you the loan, but at a slightly higher interest rate. So I say these things, Mr. Speaker, because I want to be as frank with the House as possible. The issue that we are discussing today, as I said, is a gateway to economic empowerment. It is a bridge that many countries are now using. Copyright and intellectual property is a bridge that countries are now using the world over to ensure that there is a broader base for participation of people in their economy, that it is inclusive. The economy becomes more inclusive, it becomes more empowered. But Mr. Speaker, sir, for us to do it, we must get it right, and we must be prepared fearlessly to speak to some of the weaknesses we have, among which I have just identified, sir, the need for us to continue financial literacy training, among which, sir, is the need for us to build out new ways of financing, such as a collateral registry structure, among which, Mr. Speaker, sir, is our ability to create a trade profile that sees us trading across borders in a seamless way that incorporates not just the big things like the cask of rum, but also the small things like the musician's script, Mr. Speaker, because all can earn. And in fact, in some cases, the musician's script earning more than the cask of rum. And that is the magic of the intellectual property environment. Now, Mr. Speaker, sir, as we look at the body of the enactment, it is necessary for me to give due regard and respect to the consultants, especially the key ones, who would have put a lot of effort into redesigning or assisting us with the amended environment. Dr. Erica Smith from COSGAP, sir, and then Fiona Hines, senior counsel, a colleague of ours, sir, who in her own right is recognized as an intellectual property law expert. And the amendments that we are seeking to bring, Mr. Speaker, seeks to bring, first of all, Barbados into alignment with the requirements of the World Intellectual Property Organization Treaty. Now, the World Intellectual Property Organization, commonly called WIPO, WIPO, expanded, sir, its traditional copyright protections. And it's interesting to look not just at Barbados, but at the rest of the Caribbean, because the Jamaican government, and you would have thought, sir, that Jamaica, given all that they do in culture, would have been like years ahead. But the Jamaican government, sir, has had to do similar types of adjustments. And frankly, the pace of the legislative evolution between Jamaica and Barbados is almost identical. Where we have done amendments, I think, on 3 or 4 occasions in copyright, they have done the same thing, Mr. Speaker, and virtually on or about the same year. So I don't want us to be too hard on ourselves. I think, sir, the region as a whole, if we use Jamaica as a standard bearer, and perhaps Trinidad, because they are really the major, or seen as some of the major exponents, the region, sir, has had to do work in order to keep up with the movements in intellectual property globally. And in copyright in particular, Mr. Speaker, sir, where we are today, we are having to do work in order to expand the traditional coverage of copyright protections in order to address what might be seen as some of the unique challenges that come about as a result of the digital revolution that has swept the world. Now, WIPO has created very clear protections, Mr. Speaker, sir, for computer programming. It has created very clear protections, sir, for databases and database creation, and created very clear protection for digital content. At no time previously was digital content and computer protection and databases seen as being an issue that needed to be protected, because, Mr. Speaker, sir, they just had not come to scale. There was no mass-based use of this technology. Yes, computers would have existed. You would have had computers, sir, perhaps as large as the Speaker's chair in some room in the Pentagon, where the military people in the United States would have been holding data, et cetera, But, Mr. Speaker, sir, as you know, there's no widespread use of this technology, and this technology, sir, therefore can facilitate the use and access of people's intellectual property and the usage of that property in ways never before thought of and at speeds never before envisaged, and therefore the protections had to be introduced. Now, if we go to Article 4 of the WIPO Treaty, we see that special commitments have been given to software developers, and that has been done globally. Article 4 of that treaty, Mr. Speaker, sir, explicitly confirms that computer programs, regardless of their form or their mode of expression, are in fact to be treated as literary works. And the Barbados legislation will now align with the WIPO Treaty and will capture information technology advancements. For example, as I said, sir, the databases and the computer programming and software writing, etc. So that little fellow, sir, who would have spoken to me, he knows, and what he does will be properly captured in Barbados. And hopefully, after listening to me, Mr. Speaker, sir, he now will have a better understanding of the value of what this whole exercise is about. At Clause 7 of the bill, Mr. Speaker, sir, we are going to introduce databases as part of property rights. Clause 7.9, original databases will constituted as part of an original database is an author's intellectual creation. So if you write something, Mr. Speaker, sir, it can be captured in a database, then that is part of your treated and protected as part of your intellectual creation in the legislation. Mr. Speaker, sir, the other area of interest is the question of moral rights. Now, sir, perhaps I should do a little explaining. Moral rights are conveyed in intellectual property law, especially in the law of copyright, Mr. Speaker, sir, in order to assist you, first of all, in claiming your authorship. You will recall that I said to you that you are capable in this legislation of assigning or transferring your copyright to somebody else to develop it for you. Now, if you do that, Mr. Speaker, sir, they may develop it in a way that you don't really like, but you done assigned it already. But you have a moral right, sir, to step in and intervene and to claim authorship of it if you are concerned about the way in which that work is being treated. You have a moral right, Mr. Speaker, sir, to protect the work against damage to its integrity, or to the reputation of the work, or to the reputation of the author. And I am glad, sir, that I can use this opportunity, because there are some things happening in the world that should cause us all in this country a level of concern. Now, I don't think anybody in here would be unfamiliar with a great civil rights leader coming out of the United States called Dr. Martin Luther King. Now, he had a speech called I Have a Dream. I invite honorable members to go and research this online. The I Have a Dream speech now is now being bastardized. And Dr. King's speech is now filled with a monkey making noises. It is as if you are trying to link to Dr. King the behavior of an ape. Now, this is a matter of serious concern, because it comes within a wider global context of the way in which people who look like you and me, Mr. Speaker, sir, and everybody else in this house are treated in the United States of today. That a hero of the black community, not only in America, but globally, Mr. Speaker, sir, globally, is now to have one of his finest hours reduced to the behavior of a chimpanzee in a zoo, sir, is a source of deep concern. And that example, sir, I give is one of those examples where the family of Dr. King have a right to step in, because the reputational damage, the integrity of that which he sought to convey to the world is now being defiled and bastardized by people who want to make sport about serious issues for black people and black people's development. So I say to the younger minds that will hear me, sir, that this is not just a debate, a nay thing. This is about a tool for your empowerment and a tool, sir, for the protection of your future and what you represent as a person and the value you place on yourself and on your skills. But it's not only Dr. King. Through the use of artificial intelligence, speeches are now being, there's now a thing online, and not a speech. If I remember correctly, it is a depiction of Malcolm X meeting the gentleman who just got executed at a university, his name, Charlie Kirk, I believe his name is. A depiction of Malcolm X embracing him and telling him what a wonderful man, white man he is. Now, sir, I'm not going to go into the Charlie Kirk thing, and I just want this country and you, sir, to understand that if we know what Malcolm X represented, and we understand, sir, what has been conveyed by any other party, then we, sir, understand the way in which Malcolm X's image is also being reprogrammed. And these are the things, Mr. Speaker, sir, that give rise to the consideration of moral rights. So moral rights in the legislation are conferred at clauses 19, 20, and 22. And the moral rights include those rights involved in computer program making and computer generated work. And therefore, Mr. Speaker, sir, it gives us a deeper opportunity to protect. There's, a very easy analogy for Barbadian purposes comes to mind, so we don't have to stretch our imaginations into the United States. There was a song, sir, which was a road march of this country named Jack. And when there's a line in there that says, Jack tell them, I will never make the grade, strengthen security and build barricade. For somebody to say about that line that it was about a racist Barbados or it was about promotion of hostility to tourism in Barbados, would be to misrepresent the integrity of what the song was about, because the song, Mr. Speaker, sir, was about equality of access to the Barbadian beaches by Barbadian people. And if you were to project it in any other way, sir, that would trigger the intervention to protect the moral rights of the author. And I hope, sir, that therefore that enables you to capture the legislative empowerment. Now, under the 1998 legislation, sir, no power was given to the licensing body to bring any action for infringement of a copyright in a work within its repertoire. Now, the licensing body is COSCAP. They who give or protect the licenses. But the licensing authority, sir, is now empowered to bring the action against infringement. So that for the first time, the licensing authority has locus standi before the court. It has a relevant interest. Before, sir, if you are out of pocket, you are a poor and penniless musician who happen to do a good piece of work, but then somebody come and humbug you. You still poor and penniless, because you didn't see your returns yet, and then you got to struggle now to pay senior counsel good money in order to represent you in court. Assuming, sir, that that's where you want to have it, the relief being sought. Now, the licensing authority is now empowered because it is an infringement of a copyright within the work of its repertoire to say, I stand in your shoes and I have the same rights, I have access to the same remedies as the copyright owner would have had. The advantage, obviously, sir, is that the licensing authority is an institution, so it has greater reach, it has deeper pockets, it has greater capacity to pursue remedies, and therefore the licensing authority acts as an empowering agent on behalf of the ordinary holder of the copyright. So the little small man in Fitz Village who had a design that somebody thief does not have now to look for the money to fight up, but that the licensing authority can fight up on his behalf while he continues to let his ideas flourish and let his craft be expanded. Mr. Speaker, sir, we are changing the duration of the copyright. It was 50 years before, I think I indicated this earlier on, and we move it to 75 years in order to align, sir, with the Berne Convention and also the World Copyright Treaty. And at clause 14, Mr. Speaker, sir, we facilitate the expansion of the rights of the copyright owner to include the exclusive right to determine how that owner, whosoever he or she may be, wants the copyrighted work to be communicated to the public, so that you can determine, sir, whether the right is to be communicated via downloading it, or sharing the data, or streaming the data, or any of the modern ways of broadcasting, sir. All of them are captured. But what does that do? That gives to the ordinary songwriter or the ordinary singer in Barbados, that gives to the people at Foundation School who got the Steel Orchestra or any other performer, sir, ease of access because it is being communicated live streaming or is being downloaded, ease of access, frequency of access, Mr. Speaker, sir, and they have their own economic benefits because that is how you develop a loyalty. I can follow the Christchurch Foundation Steel Orchestra whenever they perform, because, or the St. Leonard's one wherever they perform, because, Mr. Speaker, sir, they're online. I could go and get them. That becomes a brand in its own right all of a sudden. That brand then gets following all around the world all of a sudden. And what was in another dimension confined to St. Leonard's, and people who are friends of the parents and the few people around Barbados who know about the orchestra, then, Mr. Speaker, sir, there becomes a world of opportunity at the fingertips of those people. And I think, Mr. Speaker, sir, you understand the transformative nature of that. So that, I say, sir, that beyond all of the legislative modernization, I think it is important to recognize that the business minister has also announced that the policy of intellectual property as Barbados goes forward will be marked or characterized by the creation of a separate and distinct discipline called intellectual property. The legal environment that the clerk of and all of other counsel in here, Mr. Speaker, sir, would have been familiar with is a registry of corporate affairs, where the registrar of corporate affairs dealt with incorporating businesses and all the myriad problems that businesses may or may not have in Barbados, and also too, as almost a sidekick operation, you dealt with intellectual property matters. Because back then, intellectual property matters was treated as though it ain't a big thing. We do not see it that way, Mr. Speaker, sir. We feel it should stand alone in its own right. We feel it should stand separate and apart from any other activity. And we feel that way, sir, because intellectual property is in fact an indispensable and very critical tool to economic development in virtually every sector. If you're talking about healthcare, Mr. Speaker, sir, as this country is, then let me say, we are having conversations about pharmaceutical production in Barbados. Well, clearly, if we're going to have pharmaceutical production in Barbados, then there must be the requisite legislative framework to protect the intellectual property of the producer. And the production of pharmaceuticals in Barbados, sir, is in itself a major industrial step which for the first time empowers Barbadians now, how many of you will be in that sector, to be able now to be exporting this product, whatever those pharmaceuticals are. And I'm told that we have several lines now being identified, sir, across this region and into Latin America as a new revenue stream for the earning of foreign exchange in this country. Therefore, it is important for industry. Equally, Mr. Speaker, sir, I just made reference in passing to boat building. It is seen as a dying tradition in Barbados. There was a time when you could not drive through Oyston and see and fail to see boat building taking place. It is part of the heritage of the country. How many other areas of heritage development heritage protection are dying and falling by the wayside simply because we have not attributed to those things the importance that they deserve, and then to clothe them with the legal protection. We have failed to do that, Mr. Speaker, sir, and being brutally honest with this House, it is a failure through the generations of this Parliament, because we have treated to matters of heritage, we have treated to matters of the microeconomy, we have treated to matters, Mr. Speaker, sir, of intellectual property as fly-by-night small things, when really and truly they are drivers of revenue and economic and social transformation. Mr. Speaker, sir, we talk about biosciences in Barbados, another aspect of industrial promotion and so on. But, sir, whether you're talking about pharmaceuticals, whether you're talking about the energy transformation, the use of renewable energy, whether you're talking about biosciences, there's a need, Mr. Speaker, sir, to recognize that a lot of research is going on in all of these areas. Research costs money, and research gathers data, and data must be protected. And if data is not protected, Mr. Speaker, sir, it will be stolen, and data should be licensed when it is protected. And that is what this is about. It is about empowering those sectors of this economy, sir, which are critical to the transformation effort, to be able to do the things that we need to do. And let me be very real with the House, because we tend to sweep important things under the rug. Under a previous administration in this country, data was collected with respect to the offshore sector of Barbados, where we thought that we would be able to find offshore gas, natural gas. And we collected the seismic data, and the seismic data disappeared. Nobody was supposed to say anything about it. Invaluable data. And there's reason to believe that people may have profited after that data disappeared, Mr. Speaker. So that there is a very real reason why this type of legislation and this type of conversation has to be had with the people of Barbados and offered to the people of Barbados. The The United States, sir, has distinguished itself as being a jurisdiction in which patents are not only created, but where disputes over patents are fought out. And there are things called patent trials. And patent trials are resolved, Mr. Speaker, sir, as an area of legal specialty, which is a high-end area of legal practice. There is nowhere in the Caribbean that is being done, Mr. Speaker. But the region as one is moving towards looking at new ways in which we can promote industry. I have just called a few sectors, sir, which are now being delivered to the Barbadian people. And so it is absolutely important that we come to a point where we see, even as part of the furtherance of the work of the legal profession, opportunity for there to be more work done in areas like patents and resolution of disputes, specialty areas like patent trials, etc. So, Mr. Speaker, sir, I think I have been relatively exhaustive and hopefully not exhausting on this matter. But I feel, sir, and I am unapologetic in this, that there are times, sir, when the House has to be able to engage on issues that facilitate national development in a critical way. It is easy, as I said, Mr. Speaker, sir, to see a pre-existing piece of copyright and say it's going to be amended and say nothing further. But it is also a reality that many of the challenges that are facing Barbados' economy are created because there is an inequality of opportunity in this country. And that to solve the inequality of opportunity must require more than pointing a finger of accusation at somebody about it. It must require more, Mr. Speaker, than complaining about it. We're very good at that. You pick up the phone, there are some people who do nothing all day long, sir, and sit next to the phone. And they say, hello, Mr. Ellis, you know that so-and-so happened, and that is their contribution to national development. But when that conversation is over, and maybe a little entertainment has been provided to the benefit of people who like that, then, Mr. Speaker, sir, Barbados has gotten no further. And those under age 21 in Barbados are still bereft of opportunity and are still adrift on a very rough global sea because, sir, we have not spoken to solutions. In copyright and in intellectual property, there is a ready-made solution because it is a tool that is self-financing. You have an idea and you use your idea creatively, the idea can make money for you. But you need to know how the idea is going to make money for you. You need to be able to pull the pieces together of this giant puzzle that has humbugged the whole world in order to make your way for yourself. Rihanna, it is said, Mr. Speaker, sir, when she was at Cormier School,
A good school.
good
A
school.
good school.
I'm not questioning that. I think all schools in Barbados are good schools.
The better
But
school.
if you want me to say Cormier is one of the best or the best, sir, say whatever you want me to say. That's not the point. The point is, Mr. Speaker, sir, that she said then that she wanted to have an empire. She had a dream. And she had a talent. And what she has effectively done is to harness that talent to help her build her dream. And it could not have been done without the use of the copyright protections that she's benefited from. And Mr. Speaker, sir, unless you see it, you can't aspire to be it. Unless you know about it, you can't aspire to do it. And that is what has humbugged us in this country and in this region. That a lot of this, sir, a lot of what I've talked about today has not been exposed to the ordinary man. And is not exposed to the ordinary man very often deliberately because the owners of capital have one thing in common very often. People with a lot of money don't like to share it or spread it. They like to keep it. But we have a duty in the Parliament, sir, to open the doors of opportunity to the people who sent us here. And to carry conversations to them that open their minds to the opportunities not because the sentence here, but because they are imbued with a right too. They too have a right to be able to earn money. They too have a right, sir, to dream dreams of being better off. And if we continue to stifle opportunity in Barbados, you will continue to have this bubbling over of frustration, pent-up energy, pent-up frustration, pent-up anger that expresses itself, sir, on the streets in hostility, in behavior that everybody, including those involved with it, know should not happen. And Mr. Speaker, sir, therefore we have to open doors and start conversations that are practical, that are realistic, but are also transformative in nature in order to give our people a pathway to progress. Lest their lot be one, lest their future be one, sir, of persistent poverty. So as I end, sir, I say to you as I began, this is perhaps one of the most relevant issues facing the economic development, not only of this country, but of this region. Equally, Mr. Speaker, it is one of the least understood issues and one of the least discussed. And we have, if we are serious about the business we come here to do, to correct that. I am obliged to you, Mr. Speaker, sir.
Honourable for Christchurch East.
Mr. Speaker, I do beg to move the suspension of the chamber for 10 minutes until 12:35.
The question is that this honourable chamber be suspended until 12:35. All those honourable members in favour, please say aye. Those against, please say no. Meeting the ayes have it. This honourable chamber stands suspended until 12:35.